everyone. Welcome to Learning Coach Academy. Today is May 21st, 2024, and we are so lucky to have our Director of IT with us here today, Krisha Muller. She is going to be going over all things IT with us. So, Krisha, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Christina. Hi, everyone. My name is Krish Muller, and like Christina mentioned, I am the director of IT. I'm actually brand new to Compass. I joined at the end of November, so I've been here for about almost half a year now. Time has really been flying. But it's great to meet you all today. I'm really happy to be doing this presentation. A little heads up, unfortunately, I do have a cold today, so I think once I start the presentation, I may take my camera off just in case you don't see me sniffling or anything like that. But I'm happy to be here today, and I'm really happy to meet everyone here and do this presentation. So here we go. The agenda for today, really quickly, we'll cover the mission, vision, and values of Compass, although I'm sure many of you are already familiar with those. And then after that, I'm going to go into introduction and overview of what the presentation today will be about. But in summary, the presentation today is going to cover cybersecurity, safety, and security best practices for scholars and their families, along with some tips to follow and some resources. So basically, the goal is of today's presentation to share some information with you to help you keep both yourself safe online and also to help you model those behaviors for your scholars to keep them safe online as well. And of course, we'll follow with contact information where you can get support from the IT team or from me directly and a Q&A if you have any questions as well. So to start with our mission and vision, our mission statement for Compass Charter Schools, our mission is to inspire and develop innovative, creative, self-directed learners, one scholar at a time. And our vision statement is to create a collaborative virtual learning community, inspiring scholars to appreciate the ways in which arts and sciences nurture a curiosity for lifelong learning and prepare scholars to take responsibility for their future success. These mission statements wrap around our Arctic values. Our Arctic values stand for achievement, which means to engage and take charge of one's learning. Respect, to be respectful in all interactions with fellow scholars, learning coaches, faculty, and staff. Teamwork, to work cooperatively with all persons involved in one's education. Teamwork makes the dream work. Integrity, to behave following strong ethical principles, values, and academic honesty. And communication, frequently and proactively communicate with all persons involved in one's education. First, a little hello from Compass IT. I already introduced myself. That's me and on the far left there, Director of IT. They're not here today, but I also work closely with Miguel Aguilar, who is our systems administrator, and he is wonderful with all things related to our account management and so forth with our organization. And of course, Marco. Many of you probably already know Marco. I like to call him the first responder for tech issues. So he is our IT technician and specialist, and basically he's the person who helps us with supporting our families and our scholars with their technical needs. And Marco's super nice. He's so wonderful. So if you ever need help with something related to IT or a device or an account, you'll probably first be introduced to Marco. And he's very friendly and very nice and very eager to support families and scholars as well. Okay, so a quick overview of today's presentation. Where we already went over the goals and missions for Compass, so let me talk a little bit about the goal of the IT team specifically. So, our team's goal, the goal of the tech team at Compass, is to ensure our scholars have a safe, secure, and productive remote learning environment. So, our goal is to, of course, keep our scholars safe, keep their information secure, and of course, help them be productive with their learning goals, utilizing the technology that makes that possible for them. So, in this presentation, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity. So, the goal of this presentation is to review cybersecurity and digital literacy best practices with learning coaches like yourselves to help prepare them to model and reinforce these practices with their scholars at home. So, a firm believer that learning starts at home. So, today we're going to be doing this presentation a little bit more geared towards, geared towards learning coaches like yourself or towards adults. But our goal really is if you have these practices in mind and you're able to engage in these practices yourself, that hopefully you can also model these for your scholars at home so they can also engage in best practices to keep themselves safe and secure when they're navigating online environments. All right, so we'll first talk about some of the cybersecurity threats that are out there, and then we'll talk about some ways to help you mitigate these threats or how to look out for them and how to prevent them. So it's kind of a long list, but I'll go over them pretty quickly. So for cybersecurity threats, Cyber criminals target individuals via numerous methods. So we have phishing, direct messages, public Wi-Fi, which we'll talk about in a second too, compromised software, apps, QR codes, fake websites, and fake job postings, which is more relevant for teenagers or adults. But I'm going to actually post this in the chat box here too, so you can follow along too, and also access the links. But I'll be sharing the links there as well directly. Um, there we go. So we'll first talk about phishing. So what is phishing? So phishing attacks are the practice of sending fraudulent communications that appear to come from a reputable source. It is usually done through email. The goal is to steal sensitive data like credit card and login information or to install malware on the victim's machine. So for these, one of the most famous techniques of phishing that people know about is emails coming from Africa asking you to send them money because they're a prince and they're trying to they need an initial loan to access the larger part of their funds, and you have to send them money, right? So I think people heard about those just because they were kind of funny, but people actually were scammed by some of these emails. So phishing emails in general are where somebody is trying to trick you or deceive you into thinking that they're some kind of reputable source or reputable company or a company that you maybe actually do work with on the regular. Um, I almost got tricked by a phishing email once myself. Thankfully, I didn't because I come from this field, but because I use PayPal and I got an email from PayPal that looked very authentic and and I had just happened to have actually made a purchase. So it was just the timing was just a perfect frame of timing where I just made a purchase. I saw an email from PayPal. It wasn't PayPal. It was actually a scammer, and I was thankfully able to, engage these best practices, check the links, and see. And I noticed that it was actually a phishing attempt. So it was a good thing that I did that. But it just goes to show you, nobody's immune from these attempts. They're all over the place, and so it's always good to keep your eyes out for those things. So when it comes to phishing, the particular thing that you want to look out for is look out for emails or messages that seem urgent, because a lot of times they're trying to scare you into taking an action quickly without you thinking about it, or giving you time to think about it. So they're they're urgent or they're referencing a purchase that you didn't make to try to trick you, and they're asking you to perform an action to solve the quote unquote problem. So a common example of phishing emails are, "Hey, your account's been hacked. Click here to retrieve your account," or some variation of that. Or your bank needs to verify this recent purchase you made. Please email us right away to confirm this. So they're in both cases, they're looking for you to engage in action, either click on this link or do this or email us or contact us to solve this quote unquote problem. The problem is usually something urgent or referencing a purchase you didn't make to make you panic and go, hey, thinking that you've already been scammed and try to reach out to them, try to correct the issue. So sometimes they'll trick you by making you think you've already been scammed or somebody already got your information. You have to click here or do this to confirm your identity they're trying to help you get away from the scammers, but they're actually scammers. So keep an eye out for that language specifically. If it's something urgent or they need you to engage in action to fix the problem. So look out for those kinds of emails. Now, on that note, companies virtually never ask for personal information over email. They almost never do that. Banks never do that. So banks will never ask you to provide your email or your login information from the email. If you have an email that looks like it might be from your bank or from a reputable institution, and you're not sure, and they're saying, "Hey, your account has had some problem or has been hacked," or whatever the case is, and maybe you think it really is from your bank for whatever reason. If that's the case, never click on the links in the emails directly. Always go to a new tab in your browser and then log into your bank directly from there. So don't click on the links of the email, just log into your bank the way that you normally would log in from the Chrome browser by searching for it. The reason that helps is because if you really did get a notification that something did go wrong or there's a purchase you didn't make, whatever the case is, most companies will have that message somewhere, like especially banks, they'll have that message copied there. So if you copied in the website, I mean, in the website's messaging system. So if that happens and you log in to your bank and you see there's no message and no reference about your account having a recent purchase or anything, then the email you got probably was a phishing attempt and it probably wasn't real. So it's just a way to keep you safe. So generally tend to avoid the links and documents in the email itself and see if you can open up a new tab and try to find it from the actual company's website where you actually have an account whenever possible. Public Wi-Fi. So I will say this, public Wi-Fi, I will say has gotten a lot safer nowadays than it used to be. So that is the good news here. But there are still some risks with public Wi-Fi. So public Wi-Fi means any Wi-Fi network or any internet network you connect to that isn't at your house or is a trusted one that you know. So for example, I use the Starbucks Wi-Fi when I go to Starbucks, but hotels, stores, airports will oftentimes have Wi-Fi now. And that's fine to use. Again, it's gotten a lot safer now, but couple things to note when you are using public Wi-Fi, there are a couple things that you want to try to do to prevent you from being targeted by the term is man in the middle attacks. They are scammers can sometimes manipulate Wi-Fi to actually use it to collect information from you while your information is being transferred over the Wi-Fi and the public internet. So to prevent that, there's a couple things that you can do. One is avoid sending any important or private information over the internet on a public internet network until you get home to use your own trusted network. So, for example, if you know you're out like at Starbucks or a coffee shop doing work, I would recommend you probably not use that time to send personal or private information. Just wait till you get home to send any information related to that. Anything else, is generally pretty safe, but just to keep your personal identity secure, you generally don't want to fill out any like finance forms or any information like make purchases on your credit card, things like that. You generally want to keep any private information you don't want a hacker to get. Keep that uh, uh, save that for when you're back home on your home network. Those kinds of actions. Another thing is you can avoid visiting websites that start with HTTP. Instead, you should be visiting websites that start with HTTPS. Now that's kind of awkward to ask people to do that because it's hard to check, the links on websites to see that they actually start with HTTPS instead of HTTP. So there's a little trick here. I'm going to give you a link to this website. It's called HTTPS Everywhere, and if you use this service, it'll actually force websites to connect using HTTPS. If you're wondering the reason, the short version for the sake of time is just HTTPS connections are more secure than HTTP. So that website right there, HTTPS everywhere, if you use that when you're out and about on a public network, it'll actually force every website you visit to connect using a secure connection. Now, this is probably the biggest one, especially if you're at an airport or a conference hall or a hotel and you're using the internet there. You want to turn off or disable file sharing on your device. So, for example, if you're like AirDrop on your phone, you probably want to turn that off. Make sure everything, that you have no file sharing on a public network activated while you are out and about using a public Wi-Fi. Make sure your device software and browser are up to date. This is just a general good rule of thumb. And be sure to have a strong password. And lastly, make sure you enable antivirus software on your device. There we go. Now, compromised software. So, software can be compromised through a number of methods. Some software is what we call Trojan software, which looks like this, or that's what the image is referencing, where they're trying to pretend that it's this piece of software you want, but it actually has viruses attacked deliberately. Other type of software can be compromised where it's actually real software, but it had a vulnerability that hackers took advantage of. But in either case, the problem is the same. You can get viruses or spyware or other kinds of nefarious programs installed on your device. So to try to prevent this, be careful when downloading software from the internet. Only download software from the official company website. So if you're trying to like download software from Microsoft, make sure it's actually from the Microsoft website or from an authorized retailer like Amazon is authorized and so forth. And make sure, when you're buying something off of Amazon, just make sure that, or any website, make sure that the company listed there is actually listed as Microsoft. So like on Amazon, you'll see it lists the company that's selling that product. So you want to make sure it's Microsoft itself and not like a company, a random that's just selling or claiming to sell Microsoft software. But in general, purchasing from the actual company itself is always the best thing to do. Um, Avoid discount software websites. There's a lot of websites out there that promise you really cheap software. They're kind of risky. Some of them might be authentic, but you don't typically want to take that risk. because you could be downloading additional software to the software you're actually trying to download as part of that package, and some of that software could be nefarious. So you want to be careful. Some scammers will also try to trick you into downloading their software by posting a download here link on an advertisement on the website where they're trying to get you to download software. So some websites, especially if it's like small, if it's not common software or big brand software, but you still need it, and maybe the software itself is authentic, but when you go to their website, they have ads enabled or advertisements enabled. Sometimes a big ad will pop up that says, "Oh, here, click here to start your download." And you look at it, it's like, "Wait a minute, this is an advertisement. Isn't actually the real download." So another way, I didn't put it here in the presentation, but I can add it later. But if you have any kind of software or program or add-on that lets you disable advertisements on websites, that would be a nice thing to have. So that way you can avoid those. But in general, anytime you download anything, make sure you check that link carefully. Some of them will try to bait and switch you with not the company, but the advertisement will try to bait and switch you with an advertisement that just says download here to get your software. And it's actually not the company, it's just a separate advertisement. So you want to be careful with that as well. Um, Check the company's privacy policy, reviews from other users, or a software checking site like Should I Remove It? So I'll actually go ahead and put this here in the link as in the chat box too. So if you have software on your that you're trying to either get on your computer or you already have on your computer, you can actually go to shouldiremove.it.com to check to see if that software has any known vulnerabilities. Typically, software from well-recognized vendors like Adobe or Microsoft or Apple, they're usually fine, obviously, but any other software you might use regularly that isn't as common or isn't as from as big brand a big name brand company, it's a good idea to check it there. You can search for it there and just see if it has a score for how vulnerable it is. If it's high, if it's 50% or over, you probably want to remove that software until the company or entity that's selling it can sort out some of those vulnerabilities. And then, of course, always make sure you have antivirus software enabled on your device. Apps. So, similar to other types of software, be careful downloading games or filter apps on your phone. Some of them may contain spyware and other vulnerabilities. This gets like a weird story, but the most common, there was a big story actually, just a couple of years ago. There were some apps on the Apple Store that were on the Apple Store authentically. They were from China, and a lot of them were beauty apps where somebody would take a picture of themselves and like see how they look with certain filters or makeup or a lipstick and so forth. And there was a whole grouping of apps that were like beauty apps or filter apps, and it turns out they were all spyware apps, and they caused a big problem. So if you have a scholar who maybe likes to use beauty apps or filter apps, you might want to mention them, hey, be careful specifically with those types of apps that require filters, because they if you don't know where the company's from, because some of those apps actually can be spyware. And if you're wondering, the reason they chose beauty apps and filter apps was because it would force the user to prompt access to the camera. So they were spying on users through the camera, and they were reinforcing the connection to the camera through the filter app. So, but of course, other apps outside of beauty apps can have this problem too. So anything where it's asking you to enable your camera or your microphone, you want to be particularly careful with those kinds of apps. So make sure you only download apps that have been approved by the official App Store on your device. Look out for suspicious apps or duplicated, i.e., copycat apps on your device. This could mean you've already been infected with spyware. So if you open up your device, you say, "Hey, that's weird. I have two versions of Netflix or two versions of Instagram. One of them may be a spyware app." So you want to be careful. Uh, and then look out for camera or microphone permissions being turned on without your involvement. So periodically, it doesn't hurt to check your phone settings to see which apps are have camera access. If you don't remember clicking allowing the camera on some of these apps, turn them off. Then maybe check the following day if they turn back on without your doing anything that you could have been infected with spyware. You may want to delete that app right away. So it's a good tip for, especially for young people. Scholars know they use apps quite a bit on their phones and their handheld devices. So this is a good tip to pass down to your scholars as well. QR codes. So do not use a QR code from a organization or person you do not know or trust. So if again, if it's a company, organization, or person that you trust, that's fine. But generally, QR codes, like this is a perfect example. The picture here, like scan me, enter to win. You want to be a little careful because some QR codes can be sabotaged and can actually download viruses and other nefarious types of software. So a little trick for that is you can try to find an app that will allow you to preview where a QR code will take you before letting you click on the link. So there's some apps here, QR scanners, a good one. Let me post that one here. And there's also Reveal QR. So by default, most devices, when you open up a QR code, oops, sorry, there we go. When you open up a Wait, did that open up? Yeah, that did. Okay. When you open up a QR code or when you open up your phone camera and you scan a QR code, it'll automatically open that link for you or it'll show you a preview of the link. However, rather than use the phone's default method, which is going to be the camera, if you have an app like this, I would recommend if you're about to scan a QR code, rely on an app like this instead, because they'll give you the opportunity to preview what website you're actually about to go to before you actually go to that website in like a secure browser, essentially. So just keep an eye out for QR codes. You want to be a little careful about scanning them if you don't know where they're coming from. Fake websites. If someone sends you a link via an email, a direct message, or so forth to a company's website, look at the link carefully to make sure it is the real website. This is especially common in phishing emails, which we talked about earlier, where they're trying to fish for information from you by tricking you. Some scammers will create fake URLs for popular websites, but will use slight misspellings, like Amazon.com, Microsoft.com, and so forth, hoping to trick you. I actually got one of these a while back from a fake Microsoft website, and there was a slight misspelling. I forget where it was. I think it had like two eyes or something. But yeah, so keep in mind, like always look the links carefully to make sure that they are in fact the real website. They may also use the company's name as a subdomain, like Microsoft.unknownwebsite.com. So make sure if you're going to any website, especially from an email, again, I generally recommend you open up a browser and go there separately. But if you do go to click on a link in an email, check the link and make sure one, it's spelled correctly and then it's not a subdomain. Subdomain means it might say Microsoft dot some other website.com or unknownwebsite.com / Microsoft. Again, to try to trick you to think that is a real it's for on behalf of the real company. So again, if someone sends you a link, try to open a new browser tab to search for that link website yourself to make sure it is real. If it's a communication from a company, they will usually copy those communications in some kind of portal system that they have, especially for banks. So that's a good one to a good trick to keep in mind. Fake job postings. Teenagers or adults should be careful when applying for jobs online. Research the company carefully online, find their website to look for where they're posting jobs. Most companies will have a job section on their website where they will link to where they post their jobs. If the information on this website doesn't match where you found the job posting, for example, their website might say, hey, we post jobs on Indeed, find us on Indeed, but you found that job posting on LinkedIn, then you should reach out to them, verify that the job posting is authentic. Because yeah, so I actually had an interesting case a few years ago um, where was this? I don't remember the details of what happened, but a few years ago, I actually had gotten notified that my LinkedIn account was hacked. So I had to go in and switch out the passwords and everything. It only took me a couple hours to do. It was fine. But when I found out that it was hacked, I immediately went in and saw what activity the user was trying to do before I reset my account and fixed everything. And I saw that in like less than 3 hours, they had posted job postings under a fake company that I did not own. So I was able to quickly, I deleted everything, got everything sorted out, and reset my passwords. And I put on dual authentication so that wouldn't happen again. But it was amazing how quickly they acted when they got access to my account, and of course, I had to go back in and fix that. But it can even happen to me. It happens to it can happen to anybody. So there are entities out there that are using sites like LinkedIn to create fake job postings to try to collect people's information because your resume and your application is going to have a lot of personal information about you. So you want to be very careful where you're saying the information. I didn't put it here on the slides, but I can actually I'll add this later. Dual authentication I generally recommend on pretty much everything. Um, and that's how I fixed. So I that was my fault. I didn't, well, not my fault, but I didn't have dual authentication on my LinkedIn profile originally, and now I do. But dual authentication is where you set up a second way of authenticating yourself outside of just using your password, like using a text. So they might text you a code. So every time you log in, you have to type. It's a little extra step, kind of annoying. You have to text that code every time you log Um, in order to access that site, but it's helpful, and it does prevent issues like what happened to me with my LinkedIn account. So that way you don't have to worry about it so much. Okay, so what can you do starting today to keep your scholars safe at home? So best practice. For Gmail and G Suite, so scholars should be logging into all Compass related systems using their school issued email. This will include Zoom meetings, Google Drive, and so forth. Scholars should not use their personal email to log into any school related systems. There's a number of reasons for this, but in summary, making sure that your scholars are logging in with your actual school email to anything school related helps us, the IT team at Compass, keep them safe and secure. It also makes it easier for the IT team to provide tech support for issues when they occur. So if something happens while a scholar is navigating online and they were using their personal email, the IT team's a lot more limited in what we can do to try to figure out what happened, to try to correct things for them, because we don't have oversight over personal accounts. So we can't really provide tech support or leverage as much support as we could if it was their school account. So just make sure that they are using their school accounts for pretty much anything school related. If your scholar cannot get into the school email, have them put in a help desk ticket and IT will sort it out. So there's a link to the help desk ticket here. And you can, if for any reason your scholar can't access, you check with them later and they can't get in with their school email for whatever reason, let us know and we'll correct that for them right away so they can start using their Compass email for everything again, for everything school related again. Another trick, and this is for scholars, but this is across the board. Scholars should not use their school email address to register for non-school related websites or services like games, social media, shopping, things like that. I say it's for anybody. Like I'm the same way for work and personal life. I keep everything separate. I have a personal email that I use for personal things, social media, shopping, and then I have my work email, which I just use for work things. So while in their school email, scholars should also be encouraged not to accept direct messages, emails, calendar invites, video calls, or whatever from anyone they do not know or who does not have a Compass email address unless they've been introduced to them as a verified contact by their school or teacher. So we do have partners that we work with that do not have a Compass email. Um, but generally, those partners, you and your scholar will be introduced to them by their teacher. So they'll say, hey, they'll have some kind of handoff email like, this is going to be your partner for XYZ service, right? So for those kinds of entities, obviously it's fine. But if your scholar, for whatever reasons, gets a weird email and there's no Compass, compasscharters.org, and they weren't introduced to this person by their teacher, I recommend they ignore the email or send it over to IT so we can verify its authenticity and make sure that they're not getting somebody's not trying to fish them or perform phishing. Let's see. Also, be careful when sharing Google Docs. When sharing documents in Google Drive, be careful to only share documents with the specific persons you want to access these documents. Avoid using the anyone with the link permissions whenever possible. So this is just a good rule of thumb in general, but specifically for scholars, your scholar should only be sharing documents with the specific persons they wish to see these documents. The nice thing about we use Google Drive. So when your scholar is sharing documents in their Google Drive, they don't have to memorize anybody's email address. They can just type in the first or last name of their teacher and find that their email that way and share the document with them that way. Um, they can also use the Compass Charter Schools option under General Access. So when they're sharing, they can mark that down if they want to, and that will at least make sure the document doesn't leave or isn't accessible to anybody outside of Compass, which is just a good practice as well. You can see the image above there if you want to show it to them. But yeah, but in general, we don't typically want to use anyone. There's anyone with the link option. It's called when you're sharing in Google Drive. You typically don't want to use that because it means anybody outside of the Compass organization could technically look at that link, and if it contains something like their homework or their grade, we don't want anybody to look at that information. So we want to be very careful. And that's just a best practice for scholars and for families as well. But in general, we sorry. IT team is vigilant. We do our best to try to make sure scholars are safe and secure, but anything can still happen. An email can slip through, a phishing email, anything can happen, of that nature. So just a general rule of thumb is if you see any suspicious activity in your scholars' online learning environments, like a weird looking email or something weird in their account or on their device, or if you suspect your scholar's account or device may have been compromised, please reach out to the IT team right away, and we will be more than happy to assist you with that. Everything works better if we all stay vigilant and look out for some of these kinds of threats and kinds of nefarious activities in online environments. You can also support your scholar with digital literacy or digital citizenship lessons. This is commonsense.org, which I love. They have, I'll post the link here. Commonsense.org/education. They have a number of lessons that parents, families can share with their scholars. And they are organized by age appropriateness, by grade level, which is awesome. And they have a lot of great resources there. So if you want to kind of prepare your scholar for navigating their online environments, both at their current age and as they get older. It's always good for them to kind of get that security mindset as the younger the better, so they know to protect themselves online and what to look out for. This website has a lot of really great resources to help families prepare their scholars for that, for keeping themselves safe. As as families and teachers and IT staff, we always want to do our best to protect our kids, but sometimes there are times they might be using a device without us knowing or have an account, and these kinds of practices just help us, help the scholar also take some precautions on their own for circumstances where maybe our eyes can't be on them all the time. So it's just a good thing to help prepare them with this kind of information. Knowledge is power. And then also we have some other digital citizenship lessons that Compass actually provided. So I'll have a presentation here if you want to just share that presentation with your scholar. And of course, we have the acceptable use policy handbook here if you want it in the presentation as well. But that pretty much concludes that. So if you have any questions about cybersecurity or about information for your scholars or how to get support, you're always welcome to message me at any time. You can contact me directly if you want to. My email and phone number are right there. Um, or you can reach out to our IT team as well through the help desk. In fact, I think I have the help desk linked above. Yes, I do. I'll repost the link to the help desk though, just so you have it. But yeah, let me see, post it here. There you go. So yep, here's our help desk. So if you have any questions or you see something, see something, say something, see anything suspicious, you can always reach out to us through the help desk or through me directly. And that concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
I don't think so. That was fantastic. Krisha, I learned so much in that presentation. I was like, I should have watched this. And I am going to rewatch this recording because there was so much good stuff in here. Thank you so much for coming. I am blown away by that. So thank you for coming and sharing your expertise with all of us. That was way more than I could have ever hoped for. Huge thank you for that. And then, yeah, I don't think we have any other questions. Again, huge thank you. Learning coaches that are here with me. This is our second to last session. Next week is actually our last Learning Coach Academy session for the year. I can't believe we're already here. And we're going to be going over summer plans. It will be a social session, so it will not be recorded and it will be informal, but it will be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you all there next Tuesday at 11:30. And I think that concludes us for today. Again, huge shout out, Krisha. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I will see you all next week.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And yep, anything pops up, you know where to find me on the emails. But thank you everyone for coming. Have a great summer.
Thanks.
Thank you.